You're watching WLOX News This Week. Here's David Elliott.
And thanks so much for staying with us, everybody. Voter turnout in the primary, very low in most counties in South Mississippi, but Harrison County reporting a little more than 20% voter turnout, which is anemic. Joining us with her insight, Harrison County Circuit Clerk Connie Ladner. Connie, when you hear 20% voter turnout in the primary elections, big races, sheriff's race, for instance, in Harrison County, what do you think?
Well, it's disheartening. It's very disheartening, especially when you have something like the sheriff's race that was really highly contested, and we thought that it would really get people out to the polls. So when you hear 20%, it's really disheartening, especially when you plan as if everyone were going to vote. And
well, you have to do that.
You have
because
to do
what
that.
if magically everyone did vote?
Right. So you do plan that way. So it is it's just upsetting.
And I always like to point this out to people. Whenever you hear voter turnout numbers, in this case 20%, that's of registered voters. Eligible voters, that number is probably down to 6%, 4%. It's
Absolutely.
ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, because people aren't registering to vote, let
That's
alone
right.
registered vote
That's
is
right.
going out to vote.
Well, and registering to vote is not the problem. I talk to people about that all the time. We go to schools, we go to civic clubs, we go to different functions. Registering to vote is the easy part. The difficult part is getting the registered voters to the polls. And you know, some of the largest turnouts in Harrison County that we have had have not even been where we've elected a candidate. It's been Dockside Gaming.
Yeah,
it's been
referendums.
initiatives.
Yeah.
It's been 8 Flags. Do you remember that?
Sure.
So huge turnout, 60% turnout.
Well, you'll get our
that.
presidential elections
That's
every
right,
4 years.
that's right.
We'll have a pretty big turnout.
That's right.
One of the big changes in Harrison County is you went from laptops to tablets. The election workers, they were okay in training for that?
Yes, they did really good. They were a little apprehensive at first, but they did really well. They were receptive, caught on really quickly. These actually, because we have to have voter ID in Mississippi anyway, they have the ability to scan the driver's license in, so they really don't have to type in your name or sort of have difficulty looking
I was in
your
and
name
out
up.
on my precinct. I
Really
was
quick,
in and out with
really
the tablet.
quick.
But one thing the tablet was able to do is give you some data.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about that data. You were able to find out kind of the demographics of who is voting and who isn't, when they vote.
Correct.
Let's start with who's voting. People, get ready for this. How about people in the 18 to 25 age group, young voters?
Sadly, for the runoff election on the 29th, for the age group of 18 to 24, 16 voters.
No, wait a second. Say that again.
16 voters between the ages of 18 to 24 went to vote in the runoff on August the 29th. 16.
Do you know what it may have been in the primary?
It was over 100.
Oh, but even that's
125.
low.
Yeah, 125.
And you were telling me if it weren't for the 65 to 75, I'm barely in that age group, by the way. Barely. If it weren't for the 65 to 75 demographic, what would the numbers even be like?
That's
like your
correct.
bread and butter.
That's right. That's right. And that was in the election for both the primary and the runoff. So it will be very interesting to see what it will be in March for the presidential primary.
One conclusion you could draw on that is what about 18 to 65? There's a big drop off just in that demographic.
There is.
Well, I don't understand that. When are people voting? You found that out too. What time of the day?
So that's the time of day, which I thought would be early in the morning, which is when I go vote. And usually there is a line early in the morning, but the largest turnout is between 5 and 7. The next time out, the time people go vote is around 1 o'clock, so probably during the lunch hour, but the biggest time is from 5 to 7.
I want to point this out right now. Even if you didn't vote in the primaries or the runoff or anything, you have until October 10th to register to vote in the November general election. Do you oftentimes see people register between the primary and the general?
We do, and especially because more people obviously vote in the general rather than in the primary. So there is usually a surge in voter registration between the primary and the general.
Yeah, so again, October 10th, that's your deadline on that, and the election is November 8th. Connie, 41 states have online voter registration. Mississippi it's a little regressive on that, don't you? I mean, we don't allow it. What do you think about
Online voter registration?
Yeah.
Well, fortunately, we do have mail-in voter registration, as you know. It is easier to register to vote because when you go to get your driver's license, you have the opportunity to register to vote in other government agencies. So it's not limited as it used to be when I registered. I had to go 2 places because I lived within the city limits, so I had to go to the courthouse and to City Hall. Of course, that's all changed. So registering to vote again is the easy part.
Mail-in voting, absentee ballots. Some people say the absentee ballot rules are too strict.
I don't agree with mail-in voting. Now, you know, when people vote absentee, I know that people kind of get upset when they have to have their ballot notarized. I think it's important to have safeguards when ballots are mailed to the person when they want to vote absentee.
But a lot of other states are kind of waiving all that.
It is, and when you stop to think about that, we mail out jury summons also. So if we mail out 300 jury summons, just as a number, if 10% of those jury summons come back as bad addresses, because you know not everyone remembers to change their address when they move on their voter roll, then if we mailed out ballots to every single person, imagine the number of ballots that would be mailed to people that no longer live at the address they were
So we could have, in terms
registered.
of absentee people who will be out of town, you have college students, and again, we're back to that kind of 18 to 24 demographic.
Right.
A lot of them vote absentee.
They do, and I think we have a lot of parents that call and request absentee ballots for their college students. So I think that helps a lot.
Okay, well, you already kind of said you don't like mail-in voting, so I'm guessing you don't at all like these kind of ballot harvesting initiatives that
Not
we've
at all.
seen in other states. Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, I could mention a few more. Or drop boxes
No.
and some of the other things that we saw, particularly because of COVID in the 2020 election. You don't like
I
them?
do not. I think it's just too much. It's too much that can occur. If you have a drop box, I mean, you don't know what's going to happen at that drop box. If you have someone that says, you know what, I'm going to go help this neighborhood who maybe it's predominantly over 65, and they may know that they vote absentee. I'm going to go help them, and I'm going to pick up their absentee ballots, and I'm going to go drop them off at the courthouse, or I'm going to go drop them off at the post office. I mean, then what happens?
A lot can happen in between.
Exactly.
Right? Well, Connie, you'll be there for the November general election, but then you didn't seek re-election, so I might talk to you again on the air. I hope so.
Sure.
But thank you let me say thank you for your service.
Thank you.
And you'll be down at the circuit clerk's office until January.
I will.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
And thanks for being with us.
Thank you.